The American Cotton Shippers Association, also known as ACSA, is a trade association primarily made up of cotton merchants, founded in 1924. ACSA members manage the majority of the world's cotton trade, providing services of merchandising, delivery logistics, and risk management to their customers. ACSA will be holding its 101st annual convention in Palm Beach, Florida in June of 2025. For more information on ACSA, including their convention, view their website or Twitter account at Cotton Shippers.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Cotton Grow Magazine's Cotton Companion Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Jim Stedman, editor of Cotton Grower, and I'm joined as always by my good friend and colleague, Beck Barnes. First of all, a big thanks to you, Beck, for handling our last podcast episode. It was really a great listen, an excellent interview with our buddy, O.A. Cleveland, obviously with OA, always chock full of good information.
Yeah. Well, for sure. If I had to do the podcast on my own without you, Jim, and so having OA on in that scenario, it's like training wheels on a bike. I mean, because he's going to bring the energy and he's going to bring the intel for our audience, and just kind of tee him up and let him go. And it was a great interview, and we were so thankful that he joined us last week. I will see that I put the headline on that podcast last week, and in my infinite wisdom, I titled it, "Ignore the Tariff Noise, Focus Instead on Market Fundamentals," which be sure is what OA was saying. But here we are 2 weeks later, and I want you to forget that I said that because today we're going to talk tariffs. And we'll go into that here in a little bit, but we've got an excellent source on that topic as well. So you guys just sit tight and hang with us.
Yes, definitely. Well, our calendars, as you've mentioned here, it's late April. That means it's planting time across some parts of the Cotton Belt. And even USDA's fired up that weekly crop progress report that we look at every Monday afternoon. And although there's not a whole lot to say in terms of cotton yet, it's already showing that 11% of the U.S. crop has already been planted. But as you can guess, vast majority of that is in the ground in Arizona, California, and the southern parts of Texas. Not much yet out of the South, the Mid-South. We expect to see more there over the next several weeks, but as we all know, that's weather permitting, of course, because weather in the Mid-South and the Southeast this time of year can be a little unpredictable.
Yeah, May 7, that was always the start day, or I should say, intended start day on the farm I grew up on in the middle Mississippi Delta, but things are a little different these days. So right now, Jim, before we get too much further, we want to share a message from our Cotton Companion sponsor, ICL Growing Solutions.
In nutrient management, precision and profitability often go hand in hand. From buds to bowls, ICL has tailored solutions for every stage of cotton growth. With water-soluble fertilizers like Nova to specialty granular fertilizers like polysulfate, ICL's full range of products is designed to help optimize cotton yields, improve quality, and reduce input costs sustainably. Find your fertilizer match today at icl-growingsolutions.us.
Okay, a big thanks to ICL Growing Solutions for that message and for their support of the Cotton Companion podcast.
Now, Beck, as you alluded to just a couple minutes ago, over the last few episodes of this podcast, we've talked about some of the financial uncertainties that growers are facing this year. We've tried to provide some help information focused on replanting financial advice for growers, and on the importance of following market fundamentals. In your visit with O.A. Cleveland last time, especially when putting marketing plans in place for this growing season. But as you mentioned, there is one item that continues to take a lot of oxygen in the news throughout all the commodities, throughout Wall Street, and certainly around the world, and that's tariffs. And if there's one segment of the cotton industry that is more directly impacted by that ever-moving tariff target, it's the merchant and shipping industries.
Yeah, Jim. So to help us sort out some of the questions surrounding tariffs and their potential impact on U.S. cotton, our good friend Buddy Allen, President and CEO of the American Cotton Shippers Association, is back with us here in the virtual Cotton Companion studios today. Buddy, thanks so much for taking time to join us.
Beck, Jim, thank you for having me back. Look forward to the conversation. As you know, it's a tumultuous time in the policy and trade arena, and look forward to talking about it with you.
Yeah, buddy. So we'll just dive right in. We know, obviously, the elephant in the room these days is the tariffs. I had the chance to write a history book on the American Cotton Shippers Association last year. It was the occasion of the association's 100th anniversary and 100-year anniversary, I should say. And so, in doing that, I covered a lot of instances over the history of the association where tariffs kind of reared up. So we know that this is not uncharted territory for the country's cotton merchants. Can you tell me generally and just broadly, how does a round of tariffs like this affect your membership's business?
Well, good question. It is the elephant in the room, and that's all we've talked about for the last several months, all day, every day, and then preceding that during the campaign that led up to this second Trump administration. It was certainly a focal point. Now it's come to pass. Simply put, as we export the vast majority of U.S. cotton now, nothing's more important than market access. And these are the levers that are pulled, the metrics that dictate the efficiency and the volume of our access to those consuming markets. So it's of critical importance. It's a direct correlation to the value of U.S. cotton and its global competitiveness. And we think about it from the export of raw cotton, which is the first reaction. We also have to think about global demand, which is certainly related to the consumption of finished goods. We traditionally export raw cotton that's then spun, further processed, and re-imported in the form of finished goods. And their access back to the U.S. consumer and the tariffs and trade agreements, sanctions, et cetera, that govern those transactions are equally as important. And recently, we saw a really, really great piece of work done by our domestic textile industry that was led by Kim Glass at NCTO, Andy Warlick, Mike Quinn, other key stakeholders there who made a bold stand to close the de minimis loophole where goods were coming in at a low value below $800 and had access to our consumer with no duties and really no proper oversight, that was giving a very disproportionate access of synthetic fiber compared to cotton to consumers. So the work they led there and the industry certainly was involved in was successful. And that's a big win. And those are the types of things that we've got to expand upon as market access will be redefined in this focused moment of trade policy being made.
Yeah, and I know it's not really the topic at hand today, but that de minimis thing that you guys have been fighting, I learned about it at y'all's annual meeting last year, and it's kind of an off thing to talk about, but bottom line, I actually did a lot of work to, we just heard from Joe Nicosia at Memphis Gin Show talk about how the real competitor is man-made fibers. And so AXA just did all this work to limit man-made fiber access into the U.S. market. I guess long story short is a way to do that, or AXA membership, or the people you just called out. And so, yeah, they deserve to be applauded for that. But maybe that's a topic for a different podcast.
Well, it's important, and I want to give the domestic mill industry the props for taking the lead there. But to your point, Beck, cotton has a more preferential access to U.S. consumers than man-made fiber. So when you strip away all duties, that advantage is stripped away as well. And by correcting that and closing that loophole, we've preserved that preferential opportunity for cotton.
Yeah, it was important work, no doubt. So, all right, buddy. Now, the Trump administration designated April 2nd as Liberation Day. Today, as we pod, it's April 23rd. But April 2nd, a few weeks back, was Liberation Day for the U.S. and imposed an across-the-board 10% tariff on virtually every other country, with additional tariffs targeted to specific countries based on specific products, goods, and technologies. What was the AXA rank and file, your membership? What was the initial reaction to that action that took place?
So I would first say that we were not surprised by this. This administration, whether you agree with their approach and utility of tariffs or not, sent very clear signals throughout the campaign and the first 100 days of the administration. I even think the president at one point said that tariff was his favorite word in the dictionary. I wish I had a nickel for every time it was referenced while he was campaigning. So there were clear signals sent, but I think if you just judge by the equity markets and other metrics, nobody had appraised this or handicapped it at the extent it was rolled out. So it was certainly a high watermark to initiate such a broad and deep regime of tariffs in one tranche. Um, so that was a bit daunting, a bit overwhelming to start to pick apart and understand how it will impact our market, what the true objective of these tariffs is. And that objective might be to reconcile trade deficits. It might be to generate revenue. It might be to create leverage for negotiations. I personally believe it's some of all of those. So there's a lot to unpack. What we know is the current ag economy is much more fragile than it was in 2018. We went into a trade war with China in 2018. Took 15 or 16 months to resolve it. I don't think anybody believes that this current ag economy has 15 or 16 months to process a shockwave. We've got to be responsive, and I do believe there's a much higher level of preparedness, and we're already seeing a pretty expeditious pathway to create market access and opportunity in the context of these tariffs.
Obviously, China, another elephant in the room in all of this. And of course, as we've all seen over the last couple of weeks, China and the U.S. are engaged in this reciprocal tariff standoff that's currently seems to be changing on a daily basis. Now we're seeing possible port fees on Chinese ships. So two questions for you. One, with China as one of the U.S. cotton's largest customers, how does this impact our cotton trade? And what are the possible domino effects in terms of other countries stepping up to buy U.S. cotton? And two, how's the merchant community managing through all of these changes?
A lot to unpack there, Jim, but a very appropriate question. As you know, China can be the largest customer for U.S. cotton exports. It is not always, and we've seen that ebb and flow based on the integrity and the health of our trade relationship, which has deteriorated for the second time in contemporary history as we speak. Uh, Again, the clear signals that were sent put us in a position to where there's not a lot of cotton that's sold to China. There's not a lot of shipments scheduled to China, and there's not going to be a tremendous amount of fallout, uh, breach in contract sanctity, et cetera, because of some shockwave that was sent here. We've not been doing business with China based upon the assumption that there was going to be a trade sanction that would make it cost prohibitive. So that's where we find ourselves. But in the absence of the Chinese marketplace and their increased production, their compromised economy, it's been very clear that we're going to have to find additional markets. And you ask it in the second part of your question. As we start to negotiate trade agreements that we hope will come with specific purchase commitments with countries like Pakistan and Vietnam and India, if the fundamentals of the relationship are they're going to buy raw commodities from the United States and send finished goods or further processed goods back, then they're going to have to purchase a great deal of those components to come up with any semblance of balance in that trade relationship. So there are opportunities there. We've already seen pretty tangible offers, concessions, commitments from Bangladesh, from Vietnam, from India. So we believe that that is happening, and I would say the win. If you had to look into your crystal ball and describe what a win it would be, I think that would be to really develop outsized access to some of these other key strategic markets. As I mentioned, I think you can add several others, including Turkey, to the list. And then about the time you find yourself a little more comfortable with the demand structure, then you get to the table with China, and to add opportunity to what you've already built, you come up with a structural agreement with China that that creates opportunity to re-enter that incredibly robust market. I believe in the last 48 hours, and I'm not sure when this is going to air. Information has a very perishable shelf life these days. But in the last 48 hours, we've seen what appears it could be a crescendo in the trade conflict between the United States and China, where Xi Jinping said that these one-off agreements we're making with other countries could further harm their economy, and they're going to retaliate. And then we saw Scott Bessent and the president start to initiate the rhetoric that it's more opportune to make an agreement with China. At the end of the day, a mutually beneficial trade relationship beats an escalated tariff regime, and that work is ongoing. There's been signals of tariff reduction again in the last 24 hours. So maybe we are turning the corner and starting to embrace what the fundamental tenets of an agreement with China could look like.
Well, let's keep our fingers crossed on that, because I think all of us are a little bit tired of riding this roller coaster that we've been on for the last several months, for sure. But just changing topics briefly, I know that AXA, National Cotton Council, and all the regional cotton associations, all still actively working to help formulate and push a new farm bill through Congress. That's got to happen this year. And AXA also is working on several other fronts regarding shipping and transportation. Can you give us just a quick overview of what's happening in D.C. on those fronts right now?
Sir, I think if you're talking about the agenda in Washington, it's have to almost start and end with tax. We've seen this 119th Congress really focus on budget resolutions that create the framework for budget reconciliation, which will commence as soon as this recess ends. That process is the framework to create policy with these razor-thin majorities Republicans hold in both the Senate and the House. As you know, budget reconciliation only requires a simple majority vote rather than the 60-vote supermajority that breaks down the filibuster rule in the Senate. So that's where a simple majority, a more easier reached agreement, can make legislation actionable. And we think that now that the resolution has been agreed to and the reconciliation is beginning, all the king's horses and all the king's men are going to attempt to latch on to this legislative vehicle, as it may be one of the only major packages that's moving this year. And I don't think the Farm Bill can be left out of that. We're seeing the champions, the John Bozeman's, the G.T. Thompsons, consider introducing the commodity title of the Farm Bill as a component of the reconciliation package. And quite frankly, I'm a supporter of that. The reason being is we're just too far past due on reauthorizing the Farm Bill. The safety net is too far removed from the current production costs, and our growers do not have the price support and the domestic support that they require. So if there's a bird in hand that is an opportunity to move that and build that support mechanism that these growers need so badly, we're going to support that as soon as possible. And Jim, to pivot a bit to other issues you mentioned, we do have a new policy initiative that we're very excited about. Recently became industry-wide policy to really take a careful look at the U.S. consumer and their power to consume cotton products. We grow and export a tremendous amount of cotton, but we consume more than that. And our competitors around the world, and always go to Brazil because they're the largest, while they're producing more and exporting more now than the United States, they only consume a fraction of that, less than 10%. So we have a big opportunity to leverage the power of that U.S. consumption of cotton goods by applying them a more efficient access to U.S. produced cotton goods. So we're really excited about the opportunities and structural demand that can create for U.S. cotton, U.S. yarn, and potentially other U.S. manufactured cotton products.
Great. Well, buddy, I think the last time you talked to us here on the podcast, we spent some time focusing on domestic movement of cotton from the warehouses to the ports. At that time, I believe there was a great deal of concern about chassis availability, about rail capacity, handling of shipments at the ports. Where do we stand with those items today? I guess just a quick update on those.
Well, sure. That's always important. After we we make the trade deal and we make the transaction, we've got to get the physical bale from the interior of the United States to its point of consumption. And that comes with a whole new set of challenges and complexities. You mentioned briefly in one of the questions that I probably failed to answer the vessel fee, uh, the regime of vessel fees that's just been issued by the United States Trade Representative. Now we also have another investigation and another potential set of tariffs on other Chinese products that are critical for intermodal freight movement, particularly chassis, which you just mentioned, particularly ship-to-shore cranes, which are almost exclusively Chinese manufactured. I believe greater than 90% of the chassis in circulation now are Chinese manufactured. So when you look at those types of tools and you think about rail cars and all of the other essential infrastructure hardware that we use to move commodities through the interior into the export market, if tariffs are levied on the existing fleet, that will be a cost that flows back and devalues the U.S. commodity compared to foreign competition. So we've got to manage that in the vessel fee regime. The administration listened carefully to the voice of agriculture that gave a big outcry and said, "Hey, we understand your goal for national security and autonomy, and to break down this dominance in China's shipbuilding, but let's make sure we do it in a way that's not punitive to U.S. ag exports." Now we got to do that again when it comes to chassis and ship-to-shore cranes and all the other equipment we're using today to make sure that we address the top-of-line objectives that the administration has set forth, but do it in a way that's not cost-prohibitive to our products or punitive to our industry.
I tell you, I can't imagine having a plate any fuller than what you're dealing with right now on that. So again, buddy, I want to thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us again today. We're dealing with an awful lot of moving targets from all aspects of this industry right now. We sure hope we're going to be able to get some clarity and some calm in this market, not only for cotton, but also for some other commodity markets. So we appreciate you taking time and joining us again today.
Sure, Jim. Always glad to do it. Wish you the best, and thanks for the time.
All right. Well, that's it for this episode of the Cotton Companion podcast. Thanks again to Buddy Allen with AXA for joining us in today's discussion. And thanks too to our sponsors, ICL Growing Solutions, and to AXA for their continued support of this podcast. And as always, we want to thank you, dear listener, for joining us, for your continuing support. We hope you've enjoyed what you've heard this episode, and if you did, please be sure to spread the word and tell your farming friends and neighbors about the Cotton Companion podcast. Here's where and how they can find us.
You can find the Cotton Companion in 3 easy ways. First, go to cottongrower.com/companion, or simply click the podcast tab at the top of the homepage. Second, subscribe to our channel on iTunes or wherever you find your podcasts these days. And 3, sign up for our weekly e-newsletter, the Cotton Grower e-News, that's delivered to your email inbox every Tuesday morning. You can do that by going to cottongrower.com/subscribe. Also, be sure to follow Cotton Grower on social media. We are at Cotton Grower Mag on Twitter. And on Facebook, you'll find us by searching for Cotton Grower Magazine.
The Cotton Companion podcast is produced twice monthly by Tyler Hatch and Kim Henderson, our talented colleagues, the world headquarters for Meister Media Worldwide in lovely Willoughby, Ohio. I'm Jim Stedman, he's Beck Barnes, and we'll be back with you in 2 weeks, the next episode of The Cotton Companion.
'Cause God made me a farmer. Yeah, he works and he